Tonight, we kick off a brand new series, Leaders in Motion. Over the next 6 weeks, we will focus and unpack what it means for leaders to move with clarity, boldness, and unstoppable momentum. This is week 1 of Leaders in Motion. Let's go. Well, hello there, folks. Welcome to the 30. Once again, I am your host, and I'm certainly glad that you decide to join us on this episode of the 30. Tonight, we will kick off a brand new series, which is called Leaders in Motion. So that's what we'll be doing. And over the next 6 weeks, we'll be talking about it. We'll be speaking with some leaders as they move in motion. So that's what we are going to be talking about what does it mean for leaders to move with clarity and boldness and unstoppable momentum. So we're going to kick it off with this particular title. Comfort is the killer of leadership. And that's where we want us to start. I know sometimes we think that the greatest threat to leadership is failure. But in essence, we learn from failure. We have some lessons from failure. But the greatest threat to leaders and leadership is comfort. And that's where we want to start our new series. Again, comfort is the killer of leadership. Think about it, folks. We learn, or we should learn, from success and from failure. Obstacles sometimes refine us, but comfort, when we're comfortable, what happens? We tend to relax. We tend to fall asleep, right? When we're comfortable, because everything seems easy. We're not given any major news. We're just comfortable. We just enjoy it. So as leaders, we tend to fall asleep. We get comfortable. We stop taking risks. We stop innovating. We stop stretching. And then we stop growing eventually because we are still in our comfort zone. And slowly, what happens is that we end up with where we are, limited skills. So comfort kills our leadership. Our skills become stagnant. And again, we don't innovate. Our teams becomes stagnant. We as leaders, we become stagnant. So it doesn't have to be that way. So tonight we are going to break it down exactly, and I'm going to show you exactly how to move beyond comfort and into growth. That's my mission for today's episode. How can we move beyond comfort and into growth? So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to cover 3 ways. I'm going to talk about comfort is the killer of growth. Growth begins at the edge of discomfort. And then I'm going to go into our third point. Leaders who move build unstoppable momentum. And then the last thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to give you 3 steps or 3 ways to move from being stuck to unstoppable. Because we all go through seasons in our lives. We all go through times where we feel stuck. We feel that we're not moving. We feel as if nothing is happening, right? We all go through those times. So I want to talk with you about how do we move from being stuck to unstoppable. And that's the last thing that we're going to talk about on tonight's episode. So let's start with the first truth. The first truth, the number one, if comfort is the killer of leadership, then we need to understand exactly how it shows up. We need to understand how it comes about. We need to have some understanding as to when it happens, where did it come from? So that we're not shocked by it, so that we have a greater understanding. Because when leaders settle, both their teams and themselves become stagnant. Nothing moves. There's nothing new. It's the same old, same old. And with that, what happens is that we lose team members. We're not as productive as we should be. We don't see the results that we desire to see because we're not taking risks. We're not doing the things that we should be doing. We are satisfied and comfortable exactly where we are. We don't push the envelope as we should. We don't take risks. We don't need to invest in ourselves because we're great as leaders. We don't need to take the next step. We are just comfortable with where we are. We don't innovate. We don't ask our teams to go step out of their comfort zone. And certainly, we as the leaders don't step out of our comfort zone. We're comfortable where we are. And guess what, folks? That's the beginning of the decline. When we become so comfortable that we don't want to move out, when we become so comfortable in our own growth, when we take it for granted that everything will be the same, everything in the next 2 to 3 months, everything in the next year will be the same. Nothing is going to change. Folks, I'm here to tell you that is the beginning of our decline as leaders, and also, more importantly, as our team. So true leadership requires embracing challenges, taking risks, going above and beyond, growing, embracing our own development, personal and professional. It's actually actively seeking our own discomfort. You know, I like to say, and I say this a lot, and you've probably heard me say it on one of the episodes, but I also say it in our classes. And it goes something like this. Growth is only experience when we make the decision to step out of our comfort zone. So if we don't step out of our comfort zone, folks, we are not growing. We're staying exactly where we are. So now the question becomes, how do we actually do this? What do we do, right? What happens? Where do we go? What are some of the steps that we need to embrace? Well, I'm going to talk about that towards the end. I'm going to give you 3 specific steps that we need to embrace, that we need to focus on to move us from where we are to becoming unstoppable. So eventually, if we decide that we're not going to move forward, eventually things become really bad for us, and it becomes bad quickly. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we are focused, that we go beyond what we are actually doing right now. So let's go to our second point, and I'm going to talk about that. Our second point is growth begins at the edge of discomfort. Well, that's a powerful one, right? Growth begins at the edge of discomfort. Folks, as leaders, what happens is that we recognize, or we need to recognize, we should recognize that growth doesn't happen inside of a safety zone. Because we have our little blinky, right? Or our little blanket, we have our box. We don't want to go outside of that. We don't want to venture out. We don't want to embrace others. We don't want to hire others that know more than us. That's for another topic. When I talk about the true role of an effective leader. But we don't want to take any risks. We don't want to stretch ourselves. We don't want to go beyond. We don't want to step into what I call the awkward moments or the awkward places. We are happy where we are. We don't even want to go to training classes. We don't even want to go to the Jackman Group's MPACT Leadership classes. We don't want to hire a coach. We don't want to have someone that we're accountable to because we are comfortable with where we are. But I want you to keep this in mind. Growth begins at the edge of discomfort. Imagine, if you may, think about this as a person. And we have a goal that we would like to tone up. We would like to tone our bodies up. What do we need to do? Right? We need to add some muscle. Well, in order to add muscle, what we currently have has to be challenged. So if the muscle and everything else that we have right now if they're not challenged, there's no growth. So I always hear trainers or bodybuilders or those that lift weights. And so I always say, in order to put more muscle on, the muscle that we have has to be broken down. And that's the painful part, right? Is the breaking down of the muscle in order to gain, in order to expand our muscle, in order to become more buff, we have to break down what we have. We have to challenge that muscle by lifting heavier weights, by doing more. If not, there's no growth. So leadership works in the same way. Discomfort stretches us. It stretches us into the capacity and the area where we should be. And if we don't want to be stretched, we'll remain where we are. Someone recently reminded me of the definition of insanity, right? And you've heard this before. Pretty much the definition of insanity is doing the thing over and over again, the same thing that we've been doing and expecting different results. Well, if we don't change what we're doing, we're not going to get a different result. So growth begins at the edge of discomfort. So we have to force ourselves to be uncomfortable, to get out of our comfort zone. So as a leader, as leaders, if you are not growing, guess what happens? You're dying. Maybe not the physical death, but the leadership, the intellectual death, the skills death, right? So if we're not growing our skills, if we're not growing our acumen, we're dying. So that's number two. The third way that we can move beyond, we've seen growth begin right at the edge of discomfort, and that's where our capacity starts to expand. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't end there. What happens now, if you truly stretch yourself once in a while, truly stretch just a little bit, and you do it often, you become consistent in your stretching. You become consistent in moving out of your comfort zone. What happens is that we tend to build momentum. So beyond comfort and enter growth is what we call momentum if we're doing it consistently, and momentum is built through this consistency. So if we are, let's say we go to the gym again, or we're reading a book, or whatever we're doing, if we don't do it consistently, we're not seeing the growth that we should have. We're seeing limited growth. And we're not building a momentum. On the last episode, I talked about momentum and the importance of building momentum, the importance of being consistent in order to build momentum. See, discomfort is temporary. Discomfort is temporary, but results can be permanent. Going from where we are to where we desire to be, achieving the result, having the journey from where we are to where we should be. Along the journey, we are going to see some results. So we have to step out of our comfort zone. And when we get to where we are going, when we start to see the result, it doesn't have to be big results. It could be very small results. But we need to acknowledge them. When we start to see small results along the way, we get excited. Now we're building momentum, folks. Now we're saying, oh, wow. I'm actually seeing the results that I desire. Small, but now because I'm seeing the small results, it drives me to go further. So we have to be consistent, and consistency builds momentum. So now that we've established this thing called momentum through consistency, I want you to remember this. Discomfort doesn't last forever, but results do. And leaders, we need to create that momentum. So how do we now move from where we are? How do we get to become unstoppable? How do we move from being stuck? Because like it or not, and if you're honest with yourself, at times we get stuck. I get stuck. And I'm looking for something to become unstuck. But I know what that thing is. For me, that thing is, that person is Jesus Christ. That's for me. For you, it may be the same. So I don't know what it is, but how do you become unstuck and then move to being unstoppable? I'm going to give you 3 ways. Number one way to move from being stuck to unstoppable is name your comfort zone. Identify one area where you feel like you've been stuck, where you're stuck. Identify that one area. See, because when we identify it, it brings clarity. Now we're putting out there, right? We're saying this is one area. And we have to be honest with ourselves. We may have more than one area where we're feeling stuck, but we have to call it out. So name your comfort zone. Number 2, the second step in moving from being stuck to being unstoppable is take one bold action. So I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you in the next week or so, in the coming days. I want you to pick one step where you feel uncomfortable and do it. I don't know what it is for you. But I want you to think about that. Yesterday, during our training, we were talking about communication skills, effective communication skills. We were also talking about effective presentation skills. And we know that people have said that they would prefer to be dead as opposed to standing in front of an audience and speaking. Look it up. So we talked about what are some of the things that we need to do in order to become more comfortable in speaking in front of people. And I don't know if speaking in front of an audience is that thing for you. I don't know if it is that area of being uncomfortable, not being comfortable. Maybe that's it. So I'm going to challenge you, and it doesn't have to be a large crowd. It could be 2 or 3 individuals. It could be in your team meeting. It could be in person. But I want you to think about, what is that one thing where you feel uncomfortable? And I challenge you to do it. Don't wait till you're perfect. There's no perfection. Sometimes we don't want to move because we want to wait until all the ducks are in a row. Well, the ducks are really not in a row, right? They seem like they're all in a row, but don't wait until you think everything is perfect. Well, I'm going to wait until I have the best outfit, until I have the best camera, if you're podcasting, the best microphone. I'm going to wait until everything is perfect. The weather is perfect. I'm going to wait until everything lines up. And then, and only then, I'm going to venture out of my comfort zone. Well, you'll be waiting forever, folks, because that perfect time will never come. So you got to take the chance, take the risk, and do it now. The third practical step to move from being stuck to unstoppable is find accountability. I want you to share your action. Share what you'll be doing in the next couple of days or in the next week with someone that you trust. Let them know that here's where I'm uncomfortable, and here's what I want to do or I will be doing. Here's my action step that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be stepping out in this area as opposed to waiting for something else to come about. And I want you to help me. I want you to hold me accountable. So by Sunday or Monday, this is what I'm going to be doing. And I want you to hold me accountable to ensure that I do it. So find someone that you trust, share the action with them, and do it. Momentum grows when others are holding you accountable, are holding you at your word. If you say it, just do it. So let's get personal now. Let's get personal. Let's talk about you. Let's make it personal. Let's talk about you. What comfort zone are you ready to break out of? So I give you the 3 practical steps, but I want to make it personal. I give you the challenge of finding someone who can hold you accountable. I give you the challenge of taking 1 step, but I want you to take another step. I want you to, in the chat, whether you are watching this live or in replay, I want you to put in the chat, what is that one thing that you will be doing? That one action. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting. Maybe it's standing in front of a crowd. Maybe it's delegating to others, as opposed to you doing it by yourself. Maybe it's making a hard decision that you've been avoiding or putting off. But whatever it is, whatever that thing is, do me a huge favor. I want to hear from you. You can either put it in the chat, or if you prefer to email us with it, you can do that as well. I would love to hear what that one action is. So let me look for, where can I put this here? So you can email us at info@jackmangroup.llc.com. That's info@jackmangroup.llc.com. And I'll put it right here on the screen so that you can see it. And I would love to hear from you and what that one thing is that you will be doing. And maybe as a group, we can hold each other accountable. So drop it in the comments, right? So speaking about uncomfortable, speaking about stepping out, we want to work with you. We want to make sure that we can help you. So as I close, remember I talked a couple of weeks ago, I talked last week also about our Impact Leadership Training, our Fall 2025. So we want you to be part of it. That could be an opportunity for you to step out of your comfort zone. That could be an opportunity to move away from being comfortable. That is an opportunity for you to embrace your growth, your personal and professional growth. So I invite you to join us 5 weeks, 1 day a week. I think it's on Thursdays. 1 day. Right now, the class is in person, but we will make that, I think next year, it will be a virtual class. But for our fall session, Impact Leaders Leadership Training. And in the description, the link is there. You don't want to miss it. Make a commitment to yourself for your personal and professional growth. We're talking about leaders in motion. And that would be a perfect opportunity for you to be a leader in motion. So folks, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for continuing to support the 30. Of course, the 30 is a production of the Jackman Group LLC. The Jackman Group LLC is an organization that primary focus is developing leaders, taking them from where they are to where they should be, where they desire to be, and where they're called to be. So we focus on and we assist leaders, we assist teams, and we assist organizations with their strategic planning. So until then, as we end this episode of Leaders in Motion, comfort is the killer of leadership. I'll see you next week as we continue with our second part of the series. May God bless you and your family. We'll see you then. Thanks for now.